Well, it looks like Pam Bondi and the Trump DOJ have taken some first major steps to forming a national gun owner registry. Hey everybody, Yankee here. I don't know how many of you out there have been following the Reese versus the ATF lawsuit, but that was the one brought by the FPC and the Second Amendment Foundation on behalf of their 18 to 20-year-old members, challenging the federal ban on 18 to 20-year-olds being able to buy handguns from FFLs. Well, the lawsuit itself's actually doing pretty well. Now, it originally got tossed because the court said, yeah, you have standing, but there's a historic context to denying these people this age the right to buy guns. Well, then the Fifth Circuit stepped in and said, no, there is no historical context of that. You're using too loose of a definition there. And they do have standing, and under Bruin, they should be able to buy a gun, a handgun from an FFL. So basically, they handed them a big victory. But this is where it gets bad. Because Pam Bondi and the Trump DOJ could just kind of stand down and say, oh, we lose, you're right, we agree with you, so we lose. And now anybody in the Fifth Circuit, they get relief from the law. And then hope other circuits follow suit, that the lawsuit advances and becomes national, maybe goes to the Supreme Court. And then if they rule correctly, under their previous rulings, 18 to 20-year-olds should be allowed to buy handguns from FFLs. That's what they could be doing, but they're not. They're taking advantage of this situation, and I'm going to explain to you how they're doing it here. Now, one of the big problems when you have groups like this actually filing on behalf of other people, well, they have to have standing. So that's why they have to file on behalf of their 18 to 20-year-old members, because they're not 18 to 20-year-old or 18 to 20 years old. So they have to have standing, so they have to sue on behalf of their membership. That does meet that criteria, because to sue, you actually have to be able to say you're being harmed by the law. And since they're not, they have to have someone that is. So that's why they do this. The problem with this, though, is since they're the ones that want to be doing the lawsuit and be in charge of everything and raking in the money, they have to do it this way on behalf of their members. And unfortunately, that has set up a situation where the DOJ, who could just be saying, we give up. They're saying, well, if we're going to do this, if we're going to be able to provide relief to people, instead of just saying to everybody in the Fifth Circuit, you can't enforce this ban on people buying from FFLs, they've said, well, we need to know who we're providing relief to, so we want your membership rosters. Since you're suing on behalf of your membership, we want the rosters. And the other gun groups and everything have been screaming, this is a registry. And this is worse than 4473s, because now you're getting a list of people that actually get involved. People that actually stand up, rabble-rousers. And you want this for that purpose because it is a registry that the government has wanted for years. And this is the best start, getting two of the biggest organizations in the country and getting their membership lists. That is a major start. And plus, since there's a lot of overlap, you're getting a lot of the people in the country, period. So the government would love to have this list. The ATF would love to have this list. The FBI would love to have this list. The politicians love to have this list. And now they're going to get it. Because the judge sided with the DOJ and said, yeah, if you're suing on behalf of your members, you got to turn over your list. So you might be asking yourself, well, why do these groups do this? Why do they sue on behalf of their members if there's this risk? Well, like I said, it's because they want to keep the money coming. Because whenever they file these lawsuits, and even if it costs like $200,000 to fight it, well, they're going to make millions in income, and most of that's going to go in their pockets. They don't want to be cut out of that loop. Because if we just said, hey, here's two guys in Florida that are actually being hurt by the law, let's get them a lawyer, and let's set up a GoFundMe to pay their court fees. Well, not only would it cost a lot less cutting out that middleman, and most middlemen, like in business, take 15%. These big organizations take like 90, 95%. So cutting them out would cut our costs down a lot. We'd win a lot more lawsuits with a lot less money. And at a time when people's pocketbooks are hurting, that'd be great to start cutting out the middleman. With the internet, we could do that easily. We don't need these big national organizations sucking their major cut off the top. So they do this because, like I said, they want to continue to get their cut. They want to use that as fundraising. They want to say, we're doing this, give us money, and then they'll spend a little bit of that on the lawsuit. Maybe get some people some relief. That's why they keep doing this. They want their slice of the pie. But in this case, they want the pie, and then they'll give everybody else a little slice of it. So that's why they do this. And like I said, it has come back and bit us in the ass because now the Trump administration, the Trump DOJ, and Pam Bondi, they are using this to build a registry. The GOA, some other organizations have put out much better explanations of this and telling you how this should be very scary and how this is a registration that I can possibly give you. So I urge you to look that up and look into it. But you should be very upset about this because this is a terrible move on the part of the DOJ and Pam Bondi. They're taking advantage and they're really committing an atrocity here, getting these lists. But unfortunately, like I said, the court agreed with them. And unfortunately, these big gun right organizations set it up to where that was a risk. And they take those risks because they want to make that money. Now, I'm not putting most of the blame with them because they've been doing it this way for a very long time. And this is one of the first times that they've actually had a court order to turn over their membership rosters. You know, a certified list of all their members dating back a certain number of years. This is the first time that's happened, so I don't think they foresaw this. But it is a risk, which is why I said I would much prefer to not have these big organizations. I would much rather do the fights on the ground level, on the grassroots level. And also remember, these big organizations, well, they make millions of dollars, and they count on the fight to make the money. If the fight is over, they make no more money. And, you know, they want their grandkids and their great-grandkids and everybody else that comes up in this business to make that money. So they don't want the fight to stop. So they don't really have much incentive to win. If it was just us as citizens backing individuals and their attorneys through the internet and GoFundMes, etc., we have every incentive to win because we don't want to keep having to pay for lawsuits. We're not making money off of them. We're losing money. But if we were doing it, like I said, on the small grassroots level, we'd be losing a lot less money, probably a tenth of what we're losing now, paying the big organizations to do it. But we'd still be losing money, so we'd want the fight to be over. So if we did that, much better chance of winning, much less risk of something like this happening, and, you know, more incentive to win. But like I said, not putting most of the blame with them, most of the blame right here lies with Pam Bondi and the Trump DOJ, because they didn't have to do this. They did this because this is a golden opportunity for them to get a list of the rabble-rousers, the people that own guns and actually get involved. They want that list. So they are stabbing gun owners in the back once again and stabbing the major organizations in the back at the same time. So this is an atrocity. This is something you should actually be upset about. And if you're someone who believes in Trump, believes in Pam Bondi, etc., well, then you better be doing some calling. Because right now, like I said, they've taken some major steps to making the first national handgun owner, firearms owner registry that the government will have access to without having to go look at 4473s or anything. They'll just have a great big list of, like I said, the people they might want to look at if there's ever trouble.